Our guest today is Tabarak Rahman, the first person ever to run 1600 kilometers across Pakistan to raise $750,000 to educate over 7,000 out of school children. We talk about how his life led him to this adventure, how his journey shaped him and others around him, what his motivation was for attempting such a big challenge, and the impact he's created, not just in him and around him. So stay tuned till the end because you will be inspired. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wiser Together. Thank you for joining us and being a part of this. We truly appreciate your support. Today's guest is a legend in his own right. He became the first person to run 1600 kilometers. 1600 kilometers across Pakistan in just 36 days to raise $1 million to educate 7,000 out of school children. It's none other than Tabarak Rahman. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you, brother. And we had a fundraising target of $1 million, but we were eventually able to raise 750K. So
Okay.
yeah, just a slight correction there, but
Just
I'm
still
happy to be here.
doesn't change anything. Still pretty incredible. So, uh, let me just start here. You're When I came across you first, I was so inspired. This is something I've aspired to do as well in different ways and in different capacities. But just looking at you doing that and it was just so inspiring. So this is just gonna be, uh, you know, me sitting in front of someone who inspires me and understanding their perspective of what they've been through and just getting a first hand experience of what it is like to do something so impactful and magnificent. So let me start with, how does someone run 1600 kilometers? It's hard for a lot of people to fathom.
I think it's hard to fathom, but it's not as hard to do. You just keep, putting one step after the other.
Yeah. How did it start? Where did this start? Where did the thought come in mind? Why did you want to do this?
So the first thought came to my mind. I think the seed had been planted in my head in 2019 before COVID. So this guy Mike Posner, big DJ, I'm a big fan. He walked
Right.
across America in 2019, and I followed his journey. Followed his album as well. I think he came up with the song "Live Before I Die," where he talks about his run and explain his journey. So I knew that this is possible. But then in February 2024, last year, there was this other guy, Paul Johnson. He was running across America, Los Angeles to New York City, and that's exactly when I had started running. I just got into running, and as a person, when I get into something, I surround myself with all sorts of content around that thing. So I was following all the running influencers, all the athletes, and then suddenly this crazy guy is running across America. I'm like, this is so cool. And he finished his journey. He was going for a world record. He finished his journey in New York in March or April, and I ran the last 10 miles with him. And I was like, this is phenomenal. If he can do it, I can do it as well. And I think ultra running as a sport is having its moment. And Russ Cook, he ran across Africa. He was finishing up around the same time, March, April 2024. So just following those journeys and getting inspired by those people. And after my run, I met the guy Rob Symbiante. He was the crew chief for Paul Johnson, and I told him, like, you guys did an amazing job running across America, and if you guys had not done what you guys did, I would not have run across Pakistan. And he was like, sometimes we don't even know the impact of these crazy things that we do. We're planting seeds of craziness, in people
Everywhere.
that we don't even know of. So
Yeah.
that's how it started for me. And then I started training for it. I was just raw dogging my training until July. I was just running like a crazy man around New York, but I got injured in July, and that's when I started. I hired a coach. the coach volunteered essentially, and that's when my real training started.
Wow, that's beautiful. So you decided earlier in 2024, and then you started in November, I believe, and finished in
Yeah,
December.
I started in November, and this was not just a running campaign for me. This was a fundraising campaign too, because I'm not a big runner, or I don't consider myself a runner, but I wanted to do something for education in Pakistan. And when Paul Johnson, when he raised money for veterans, that's when I realized, okay, this is one way to fundraise for education. So this is a way to create an impact by doing something that is like, so cool. And I knew that I'm not a physically gifted guy. I don't consider myself like a top athlete, but I do know that I'm mentally very strong. I've always come out and said that I think I'm one of the more mentally strong people I know. So, and this is all about mental strength. So I was playing to my strengths essentially, and that's when I started training about for the run. I had been training since February, but I wanted to announce the run in August. I had two windows: either do it in November 2024 or February 2025. And so February March is when there was an overlap with Ramadan in
Mm-hmm.
Pakistan, number one. And number two, I couldn't get my PTO in February. So I spoke to my manager or my PMD, and he himself is a runner. I spoke to him in April or May, actually. He had just run the Boston Marathon. He comes
Mm-hmm.
in, he starts talking about his Boston Marathon. I listen to him for like 30 minutes, and then, I tell him about my run,
Drop
and
the
he was like,
bomb, yeah.
then I dropped the bomb. And I'm glad that I work with like really cool people who value pursuits outside of the workplace. So my whole company was super supportive of the idea, and they got behind it.
That's beautiful, man. So I want to go back to a little bit to when the seed was planted. So you mentioned you weren't a runner. So what part or what aspect of the run or the Mike Posner walk or the Russ Cook run really appealed to you?
I think the mental strength side of it, as I said, I relate with those guys because I think I'm mentally very strong, and this does require mental toughness. And I wanted to do something for me to get a sense of achievement as well. Like, I have done something that nobody else has done, get those
Hmm.
bragging rights for myself essentially, but also to prove myself that I am actually mentally strong as well. So I really relate with those guys, conquering yourself. And once you do something difficult or something that is perceived as hard, then everything else seems easy. For example, I've said this multiple times too, that sitting behind a laptop after running, for 10 hours a day or for 8 hours a day for 35 days, everything else seems easy to me now. So that was the whole point for me.
Yeah, I think it's like your mental outlook, right? If you constantly go against the comforts of your mind and keep challenging that voice again and again, that just reinforces that behavior on other aspects of life as well. So would you say that was the
100%.
driving factor, core driving? I know there's a lot of other things surrounding it as well, but was
I,
mental
I,
progression?
I think, yeah, the mental progression was a driving factor for me. I wanted to do something for myself. Um, so, to feel, I don't know, I really feel good about myself anyway, but I think that run really gave me that perspective that okay, I can do hard things. If I put myself mind to something, I can really achieve that. And it wasn't just the run itself. I think the 6 months leading up to the run, where I was training for like 22 hours a week, 3 hours a day essentially, while managing, 10 hours of work every day as well. So that discipline during those 6 months, and I think the run was the celebration of those 6 months
Yeah.
of hard work that I'd put in.
Bob Proctor say, I don't know if you're familiar with Bob Proctor.
I'm
Uh,
not. Who's this guy?
so he talks about manifestation, law of attraction. He's passed away now from Proctor Gallagher Institute. So he says goals are not to get, goals are to grow. So the journey is what shapes you, and that shapes you in the person that you want be to be able to achieve those goals. And then once you achieve that goal, that's just a mere medal and a reward, but the journey is what shapes you, which you just mentioned as well. So I want to ask you, how do you see yourself objectively? If you were to look at yourself, how do you see yourself before the run and after the run, and is there any changes or same?
I think overall I'm the same. I'm exactly
Of
the
course.
same guy, but who just. But now I know that I can run 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
But jokes aside, I think I've become more empathetic. I've met so many people throughout my journey. I think I've met thousands of people, thousands of kids, and all kinds of people. Like I met the extreme rich, and I've met people on the other side end of the spectrum as well who did not even have access to bathrooms, clean water, kitchen. So understanding the perspectives of both ends of the spectrum, that has made me much more empathetic, I guess. And it has made me get out of my bubble and put myself behind, so I don't take myself as seriously now as I would be before. And yeah, I think I'm just more passionate about education now because this run was about education. I've seen up close, I've met so many stories, so many people have reached out that, oh, I went to this school, this is my story. So I think I'm a better, I don't know if I'm a better human, but I'd like to think that I've I've seen a lot of positive changes within me.
That's beautiful. You said it was as much of an internal journey as it was external. So, what is one thing maybe that you learned about yourself or realized about yourself, or saw a belief changed, or an
Dude,
epiphany?
I think it's hard to tell you one thing because I learned so much. Every day
Yeah,
was a roller coaster of emotions and
I can
experiences.
imagine.
So this was an exercise in patience, an exercise in leadership as well of sorts. Because every day I wake up, I have a crew of 7 people, 6 to 7 people with me, and my crew feeds off of my energy. if i if i'm
100%, yeah.
if I put my head down and I'm like, dude, I'm tired today, everybody else is, you can see their faces that they're feeding off of you. It was an exercise in patience as well. Plus on top of that, since I was fundraising, the fundraising added an additional layer of emotional pressure to the run, which is very hard to describe. And I think it's made me a better, more empathetic friend as well. Because initially I was kind of upset at some of my friends, oh, they're not donating, they're not coming out to support, they're not doing this. But then as time progressed, somebody told me, dude, maybe, then actually I met one of my friends, and they had a miscarriage, but he still came to the finish line two
Oh,
weeks
great.
after the whole episode happened with them. And that's when I realized people have a lot going on in their lives. Maybe the run is very important to me, but as a friend, am I doing enough for my friends as well? Like I've missed so many weddings, I've not been there for my friends as well, that for whatever is important to them. So those are the things on the margin that I picked, to be honest. But overall, I think I learned so much more about my country too. I've explored. I've literally, walked through most
Yeah.
of the national highway. I saw so many beautiful sights, all kinds of sights. I saw people living in different situations, conditions. So yeah.
And I loved how you shared it so authentically. It was so raw, unfiltered, going from the vendors on these highways and meeting people. And I love how you went from school to school. So you were raising money for TCF, and as you've mentioned, and as we can tell as well, you're very passionate about education. Why is that? Do you want to talk a little bit more about TCF and your passion for education?
So my passion for education stems from my family. I'm sitting in front of you because my father moved to Taxila in 1991. That's where he met my mother. Uh, but my mother, she was the first female or first girl in her entire village to go beyond high school. She had just graduated and she used to run a tuition center with 90 plus kids. My dad had just moved to Taxil at the time and he wanted to open a school. They did a merger of the tuition center merged into my dad's school. Eventually, they ended up opening both of them 16 more schools in the area. So I've seen up
Wow.
close their struggles in a rural part of Taxila where there's no education, there was no school in the area. They used to go to each and every house in the village and do a campaign to ask people to send their, especially their daughters, to school. So they had to hire female faculty so that people are comfortable to send their daughters to school. There was a lot of backlash, and growing up, I saw that, and there was a certain kind of pressure and responsibility on us because we were privileged enough to be born to parents who value education. So passing on that legacy, and so that's where the my passion for education comes from. And when I moved to Boston in 2022 for my grad school, I became my two of my best friends, Nadeem Hussain and Yasser. They had gone through the whole TCF system. Nadeem,
Yeah.
worked at IMF, has worked at World Bank, but he had never gone to school until very late in his childhood. Similarly, Yasser, he went through the TCF system. Now, mashallah, is working as a data engineer in Silicon Valley. So those are the stories. I mean, I initially I thought maybe these guys are just anomalies, very smart, super smart kids, who went through the TCF system, achieved so much. But when I was living up close with them, I started meeting so many other TCF alumni who are doing amazing things in their life professionally. Um, so that's what inspired me to do something for TCF. I researched some more. So for those who don't know what TCF is, TCF operates 2,000 schools in Pakistan, a little more than 2,000. They provide near free education to 300,000 plus kids. They employ 14,000 women as teachers. So that's what TCF does in Pakistan. And I was happy to, or I think I was lucky to play a very small part in the whole TCF journey. TCF started in 95 or 97, right around the time when I was born. They started with 5 schools, and now they have 2,000 plus schools. So that's how my that's but when I said that when I announced that I'm going to fundraise for TCF, I was getting questions like, is does your father run TCF? Are you related to anybody at TCF? I didn't even know anybody at TCF. My introduction to TCF was through the success stories of TCF. And my definition of success story has also changed, to be honest, with this run, because my before the run, I define a success story. Oh, somebody's a doctor. Oh, he works at a top investment bank. Oh, this guy, he goes to a top university. That was my definition of success. But since my run, my definition has evolved, because if you go to a very small town or a rural area where people are having a hard time putting food on table, and you educate someone and that was someone is now a good citizen, or is now a good member of the society, and then that person paves way for education or for economic prosperity for their next generation. That is success as well. Somebody who didn't know how to read, now they can read, they can do whatever they want to in a dignified manner. So that is also success. So I think my definition of success has evolved through TCF too.
Yeah. What would it be now? Is it educating people or
I
creating
think,
impact?
yeah, I think anybody who's a good person, education is more than just how much money you earn.
Yeah.
Education makes you I think essentially a better person, more educated in things other than just outside of textbook. It teaches you a way of life as well. You're more empathetic. You're more aware of your surroundings. So I think if education can help people become better human beings, I think that's my definition of success now.
That's beautiful, man. And education is it's such a noble cause. But going back to your driving force, I feel like a big part of us as adults is just trying to satisfy our parents as we were young. So they create these expectations are created so early on and subconsciously as well. So how big of a part of you was trying to, that child within you was trying to satisfy your parents, so because they set this precedent of, creating change and impact through education, and maybe in your mind they created this expectation, oh, this is what success means, and this is what really makes them proud. Because for a child, they just they go off of their parents' energy, and what they appreciate, what they like, what they dislike, and sort of evolve from there. So
Yeah.
did that also?
Yeah, I don't know how much of this was because of my, expectations from my parents, but I was just happy to see my family at the finish line. I was happy to see, the tears of joy in my mother's and my dad's eyes. That was just a very proud moment for me. I'm not sure how much of the expectations growing up played a part in me doing this run. I'm sure they played a big part, but I was just happy to see them happy and proud because it was a hard sell for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
when I when I first when I first told my dad, he was like, "नहीं बेटा, ये करने का कोई फायदा नहीं है, मर भी सकते हो, ट्रक मार जाएगा," and my
Yeah,
mom was like, लग जाएगी, कुछ हो जाएगा. So it was a hard sell,
I can
and
imagine.
my mom visited me in August, in July and August, September. That's when like my training was at its peak, and used to feel so guilty because I used to work like 9 hours in the day, 10 hours during the day, and as soon as I'd come back, I'd wear my running shoes, I'd get out and run, and I'd take my mom to my run club, see how we're doing. I tried to find ways to get her involved, but that wasn't really her thing. And
Yeah,
every night I'd come back and I'd just say sorry, Amma. मैं आप लोगों को time नहीं दे सकता. I haven't been able to spend time with you guys, but I'm so sorry. That was a big sacrifice from my side because I wasn't even able to go see her off at the airport when she was going back to Pakistan because I couldn't take a day off from work because I had to take days off when I'm in Pakistan.
yeah.
But
I
I'm
guess it's
glad.
a
I mean,
sacrifice
they were
on
super
their end as
supportive.
well.
Yeah, it is a big
No,
sacrifice on their end. Yeah,
yeah, I can definitely imagine, because I've sort of been through this in a way as well. How hard of a sell it is. I
yeah.
still haven't been able to make the sale, but it's not just, people may not know this. It's not just the running aspect. Security is a big issue. Perhaps there's no traffic rules, so you could be run over by a car or a truck. How
Yeah.
did you how did you get over those? What was the hardest part about the run?
The hardest
Or
part
no?
about the run was the weather. The first week was the hardest for me physically
Was
because
it really warm?
it was really hot, not warm, it was hot.
Yeah.
It was around 32, 33 degrees Celsius. November is
Even
supposed to.
starting in north, you
I,
started.
I was starting 40 miles north of Islamabad. So November in Islamabad is pretty good weather. It's
Yeah.
nice and chilly. Winter is
Come.
approaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was 32 degrees, 33 degrees Celsius throughout my first week until I reached Lahore. And in Lahore, the weather, I think the temperatures dropped because of smog. The smog took out the sun, but it was unbreathable. I was feeling, it felt like I was smoking plastic or I was
Yeah.
breathing plastic. It was that bad. So, weather was the hardest part for me. And I knew in my head that if I get to Lahore uninjured, physically fit, I will make it to Karachi because most of these endurance runs, the athletes they quit in the first half, in the first week or so, because the body is not used to it. In the very first week, the body gets traumatized, and then you before you know it, either you have a shin splint or you mess something up. So getting to Lahore until Lahore was the hardest, and I think day three for me was the hardest as well because my stomach was upset. I couldn't eat anything. My body was getting used to eating 6,000 calories a day, so I wasn't able to digest anything. So running on an empty stomach uh, 50 kilometers. So that was pretty intense.
I think there's so many variables from diet to weather to the volume of running you have to do, and managing the team. There's so many things, like you can't train for everything. And you're not a
Yeah,
runner, like you said. You, from what I know, you didn't hadn't even run a marathon before you did this. Is
yeah.
that right?
I'd never even run a marathon, but what I did was in July, I did a test run for my run across Pakistan. I ran 80 miles in 4 days in Central Park. So I was averaging around 20 miles a day, and I was
Wow.
trying to, reproduce or recreate the conditions that I'm going to face in Pakistan. So I was running probably half marathon in the morning, 8 miles in the evening.
You were sharing the 80 mile in
Yeah,
four
yeah.
days.
So I did a test run. I recreated the so I recreated the conditions I was gonna face in Pakistan. July in the US is pretty hot, especially in New York. So I was running 80 miles across Central Park in 4 days, so essentially 20 miles a day. Subah mein I was running a half marathon, and in the evening I was running 8 to 10 miles. So that was my training for this run, and that was also a test run for fundraising as well. I did a fundraising for my high school, and a very small fundraising, but it gave me an idea of how to actually ask people for money, what kind of excites people, why would people want to give you money. I mean, that's never easy to get yourself rid of your own hard-earned money. So that was a good test run for me, and I think we were able to raise $3,000. My dad was invited to, present that cash to the wing chachas at my high school. So that
Mm.
was a very good moment for my family. And in that, my dad realized, okay, he's doing something that could be something big, you know. So
I think it was a good way to sell as well, giving them, recreating it for them as well in a smaller way, but perhaps.
100%. So if anybody's planning to do something similar and is having troubles convincing their family, do something smaller first.
Yeah,
Give
yeah,
them a trailer of what the actual thing could look like and how cool it is.
yeah, for sure, man. One thing that I was looking into this as well, right? In terms of security, because I think that's a big. There is some, Pakistan's beautiful, and this so scenic. There is some parts though where it's not as safe. People do, the things happen, right? People do attack, you can get mugged, you can, it's not
Yeah.
safe. So how did you overcome that in your mind and
So
in your environment as well, physically? How, what did you do to overcome that?
in my mind, dude, like I told myself anything can happen to anyone anywhere in the world. So if I think about security or something external that could happen to me, I would never step outside of my home. So you see crime happening with people, victims of criminal activity in New York. Subways, maybe, there's something happening all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So something could happen to you anywhere in the world. So that was my thought process, but I had to be diligent. There are some parts in the country where you need some help, and what we did was we wrote letters to all the security forces or all the relevant government departments. We told them that, okay, this is something that we're going to do. We are raising awareness about education, and this is how you can help. So eventually, what happened was, and Pakistan is very careful when it comes to presenting a global image, and they thought that there's this American dude, he's coming to Pakistan to
uh,
run across it. So they
yeah.
so they took extra care of me. So what they did was they spoke to every local or every district police officer, and whenever, for example, I'm crossing through Rawalpindi, so the local police, they give us whatever protection they can. If they have if they have spare resources, they allocate them with us. And as soon as we cross into the next district, if the local
The
police
handover.
of yeah, they hand us over to them. So that was pretty nice for us. And yeah, that's how we did it.
And everything was smooth, no hiccups in terms of security and
Everything was smooth. What I would say, that my observation is that the police officers or the police constables, they have the most thankless job in Pakistan.
hmm.
They don't get their weekends off. They can't even retire until they get to at least 55 years of age. And they are underslept. They work like 12 to 14 hours a day,
And
maybe
they're
more.
never appreciated. I've never see.
They're never appreciated, and
Yeah,
most of them, they're just struggling mentally as well. So that
yeah,
was my observation of interacting with so many police officers, but or policemen. But overall, I think it was a good experience. We didn't have any hiccups or any security threats or any issues per se.
that's amazing. I'm sure throughout that run, you must have obviously at different points sharing with people and people coming across what you're doing. They just can't fathom it, right? It's like, and people don't understand why would someone do something like that, right?
Yeah, but people also appreciated it a lot. To be honest, like for
Yeah,
example, I was running through this uh, Ahmed Bher or Ali Bher, right before between Hyderabad and Karachi. There's this small village, Ali Bher, and as we were running through Ali Bher, there were these village elders. They saw us and they were like, "What's happening?" And we told them that we're running for education, raising awareness, raising funds, and they
yeah,
brought all the kids from the village to tell us, to show us, okay, we care about education. There are no schools in the area. These are the kids, they go to school. There's only one primary school, and after fifth grade, these kids, they won't get any education. So they brought all these kids, and we were, a beacon of hope for them, that this guy, in their head, they were like, this guy, he will open a school here, or he will, take our message to whoever he has to take this message, and something will happen.
yeah.
So I saw a lot of appreciation for education, and a lot of appreciation for what we were doing, and a lot of hope for people as well.
And vice versa. Like I'm sure having these interactions on a regular basis from time to time, it must have given you fuel as well to keep going on and keep it. It was a source of
1000%.
motivation, right? Because it would have been
1000%.
otherwise, it would have been very difficult otherwise without that motivation and stuff.
1000%. So when me and my brother and my father, we were planning the whole thing. So my dad, he wanted us to meet as many schools, as many kids on our way. I was like, we will meet, but we can't meet we can't visit three different schools in the same day, because I am still, primarily, I have to run for 7 hours. I
Yeah.
have to eat, I have to sleep, I have to do so many things. So this is somewhat of a distraction as well.
Hmm.
But I told them not to arrange so many schools, and not to have us meet as many people. But my brother, he was adamant that this will help you, and that really charged me.
Yeah.
Because
That.
dude, kids anywhere in the world, they're just so sweet and
Yeah.
innocent, and
Yeah.
and it's just so freeing to act like a child as well.
100%. They
Yeah.
they they just act. They don't think before. They're authentic, right? It's they haven't come across the horrors of the world, which could
Yet.
get them to think. Yeah, they just act out of just the kindness and they don't think twice, which is like it's the most pure soul. Kids are pure, right?
Kids are pure, yeah.
Yeah. So that's beautiful, man. So as as a personal journey, I'm sure doing something, bro. When I wake up, I pretty much run every day as well, 5K, 10, 20, 15, 30, whatever. But it's not like you get used to it, but the voice is always there, and you always doubt, and you always think of stopping now, 2Ks and 3Ks. And I know as you keep going on, that voice kind of slows down, and then next day it starts again. So how do you overcome that doubt? And I think it would be a takeaway for everyone to apply in different aspects of their life as well, of how they can overcome it, and because principally it's the same thing, right? Context is different, but
Yeah. I think you don't overcome that voice. You just appreciate that it exists,
Hmm.
and just make friends with it, and then you tell it. Sometimes you fight it. Sometimes you that kind of hearing that voice of telling you in your head that, oh, today's hard. Why don't finish your run today? Or for example, I had to do 50K on a day, and at mile 20, I'm like, dude, this is it. Why don't I pick it up tomorrow? And
Hmm.
if I overcome that, that gives me the mental strength. Okay, I overcame this today. Tomorrow, I think that voice will come. If that comes again, I know how to deal with it. And for me, when I was having when I used to run lonely miles, I used to count cat's eyes. So it's all about not thinking too far ahead of yourself,
Yeah.
and thinking probably in 30 seconds, 30 minutes, not more. I never thought 30 minutes ahead of me. So I used to count either the trees, I used to count, the lights, the poles, the light poles on the road. I used to count cat's eyes. So just trying to play those tricks with your head, and keeping your head busy into something else, and constantly problem solving as well, because you have to avoid the traffic. You have to avoid stray dogs. The dogs can attack you anytime.
It
There was
keeps you
this
present, these
It keeps you
things.
present. And then I think this one time I got attacked by a cow.
Really?
I got attacked, like the cow. She was chasing me, and that really, yeah, that was the fastest I ran throughout my
Do you have
run.
that on video?
Unfortunately, not.
That's
But
hilarious.
yeah, and then, like, there was this one time, there was this dog. He ran with us for like 3 hours. I think it was somewhere in Mia Channu, and he dropped us off in the next district. Then I met a couple of guys. They were, I think, mentally unwell. They were mentally unwell, and they kept on walking with us.
Hmm.
And then we told the police guys with us, like, why don't you check in on him? And maybe he's lost or something. And they said that they know this guy. That's what he does. He just walks. I'm like, this is therapeutic, bro.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. So I love this is very common amongst endurance athletes, just counting or just anchoring yourself, finding something that anchors you in the present moment, because the climb in front of you is massive. It's huge, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you look at the top of the mountain, if you're climbing Everest, if you're always focused on the mountain, like it just that feeling is so overwhelming. It kind of,
Yeah, it takes over you. For
yeah,
example, on day 31, we were planning about the finish line. That was the first time I had thought about the finish line, and that was after,
really.
like, yeah, and that was one of the hardest days for me, because that was the day I was thinking that, oh, the finish is near, the end is near. My family is flying in from Taxila. Where will they live? Where will they stay? I have to book flights for them. I have to book hotels for them. Oh, I have to go back to New York in 2 weeks. I have to book a flight for myself. So all those things, worrying about the real life,
Hmm.
that was hard for me. So I think, yeah, you once you start thinking about the destination, the journey becomes difficult.
Yeah, 100%. And if you focus step by step, I think with anything in life, if you just focus on the next step and just take that, you will find courage to take another and then another. And you never know how far you for some it's 1600 for now. Maybe
For
maybe
sure.
more, maybe more in the
What are
future.
your plans? You told me that you mentioned you wanted to do something similar.
So man, I had a similar I was very inspired by Mike Posner as well. I came across him on a podcast and I was just blown away by his journey. He not only just ran across America, but he climbed Mount Everest as well. He's done some incredible, and his story just walking across America. He was bitten by a snake. He was hospitalized. Then he came back and started. So I was just witnessing these things. It really reshaped my definition of success as well. So I really wanted to do something like this, and but I was never really sure that if it's some possible in a place like Pakistan. and a friend shared your journey with me, and I was like, when you look at someone, oh, if that person's done it, why can't I? And that energy, that source of, it's a source of belief, and it's a source of evidence as well. Like, it's in front of you, it's been done before, and obviously this is a source of learning for me to understand your experience and hopefully try and implement it. But security is a big issue. Perhaps that's why I
The
haven't been able to convince my parents. they're
Yeah, no,
they're
I could help you with that. So, funny story. As I said, I spoke to, we wrote letters to all these government agencies. So that
Yeah.
didn't really work out. So let me tell you the actual story.
Yeah.
So the actual story was there was this guy, he reached out to me, oh, Tabarak bhai, I want to make a documentary on you, on your run. So before you start your run, why don't I meet you and, we record something?
Wow.
I was skeptical at first, and I was like, dude, come over. He came over, and he came over with his friend. And I asked those boys, like, what do you guys do? We just spoke about families, and one of them told me that his dad is in Islamabad police at a very high rank, and I was like, can your dad help us with this? So he made, although we had gone through the formal process,
Yeah.
but knowing someone internally always helps. So this was another lesson for me to always be open to meeting people. You
Hmm.
never know, you meet someone for X purpose, and then you end up learning something or getting something else out of them. So I could help you with that if you ever
No,
plan on doing this. Yeah,
no, no, 100%, man. Thank you so much, and it means a lot. I do feel like, yeah, there's gonna be hurdles. It's definitely hard, but if you put your mind to it, and you wouldn't know how to solve them, but once you get to them, you'll find a way. You'll find some direction,
for sure.
right? And I'm sure, like, when you started or when you first thought of it, there must have been 1,000 unanswered questions, and
Yeah, there were 1,000 unanswered questions, but since I had seen Paul's journey before, I knew what to expect. So I started training in February. I wanted to get to a baseline, a base level fitness by August.
hmm,
And by August, I wanted to announce it. And August was when I started ramping up my sponsorships.
hmm,
So I really wanted a few, corporate partners behind me, so that I know in my head that before the run starts, I have fundraised at least $100,000. So getting in front of people, the run gave me an opportunity or an excuse to talk to people essentially.
hmm,
So I was going to people telling them, "Oh, this is something I'm doing." Either people would be like, "Oh, this is so cool," or "You're a crazy man." You
yeah,
know, you're just
both.
making shit. Yeah,
It's both.
you're just making shit up. You won't follow up on it, and that was also somewhat of a fuel. But anyhow, so I broke it down. August is when I really want to ramp up, and that's when I got myself a team that was helping me with sponsorships. My friends, they volunteered, they came on board, started introducing me to people, to introducing me to brands. So I gave myself 3 months, and I think my brother was a big source of energy and security and safety for me, because wherever I failed, I just went to Zia, like, bro, website banani hai. We need a website. We need someone to handle our social media. Zia, I need you to, find me an RV, or I need you to help me with the security. So he was my go-to guy for everything. So having someone like that, so that you can focus on the running bit.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to focus on the donation and the running bit myself. So those were the two things that I took in my own hand or my own control, but everything else, my brother was doing it for me. So having that support system or that support crew. So I think if you're planning to do it, maybe give yourself 3 months in
And
advance to get the word out, start socializing the project, friends and family, corporate sponsors, get a few partners behind you, and then I think a month or so is enough to do the logistical planning,
yeah,
because you just can't plan it to the dot. Just have a rough estimate
100%.
of, this is when I'm gonna start, this is when I'm gonna finish, and then exceed your own expectations.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think there's so much that running is just one aspect of it, and that you can potentially handle yourself, but there's so many things around it that needs to be taken care of. So yeah, it's impossible to do it without support. So kudos to everybody who helped you throughout this journey as well. Maybe they don't get enough appreciation, so I'd like
Yeah.
to acknowledge them as well. Tabarak, I want to ask you, if you take away the fundraising, all the fame, the views, the impact you've created, if you take away everything external, right? What does this run mean to you internally, if you want to introspect on it?
That is a very hard question, but I think it just is evidence of me being capable of doing hard things or doing anything in this world.
Self
But
belief.
yeah, I think it's just self belief. But I think if, in a few words, it's just evidence of me being able to do hard things. That's it.
That's beautiful, man. And going off of that, I feel like people like us, it's the journey never ends, right? Once you get to one top of the, once you summit one mountain, you look over and you see another. So on this journey of mental progression and just being as resilient as you can, what's is there something next? Have you planned something? Uh,
So as soon as I got back from the run,
your mind starts running, right? What's next? What's next? You want to do
yeah,
the
what's yeah, I really wanted to do the next thing as soon as possible. So I had a few ideas. One was to run 100 miler in Antarctica, go to Antarctica. So there's a world
wow.
record. I think Rob and Paul Johnson, they broke the world record for a fastest 100 miler in Antarctica. So either go challenge for that or run 1,000 kilometers on a track in Karachi, because I think that's mentally the hardest and
Yeah,
even physically much harder than
yeah,
what I did.
I agree.
So those were the two things that I was planning as soon as I got back. But now life has happened. I've moved into a new apartment. I'm busy furnishing it. So I'm taking care of other stuff right now. So probably I'm still giving myself a couple of months, probably around end of March, early April. I'll decide if I want to do something similar this
Yeah,
year, or even if I don't do anything of that magnitude, I might just do. I want to do one hard thing every quarter. So it doesn't necessarily have to be running. Probably something in business. Achieve something big.
yeah, yeah.
At work, at business. Maybe read 10 books in 10 days, something like that. So anything that if that is perceived to be hard, do that and tell yourself, okay, this is something. For example, I want to learn swimming. I'm really bad at swimming. So this
Me too.
so this
Iron Man is
there's something you want to do.
it's on the horizon, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah,
So probably I want to learn, get better at swimming. So those are the things I want to get better at. I want to learn how to play tennis much better than I know now. So it doesn't necessarily have to be running. It's just a personal
yeah,
journey of improving at things you're not good at.
yeah. I think it's just about overcoming that voice in your head in whatever shape
Yeah.
or form you can. Right. When I did my 100K as well last year, I couldn't finish it, unfortunately, got to about 80K. And I remember on the way back when I was driving, my friend was driving me back the uh, from the from the track to our hotel, and in the car I'm just looking up the next 100K. And 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 this I've noted after every marathon, that feeling after is so high that no, I want to do it again and again, and it fades away. Like it's not, it's in the heat of the moment, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's faded away now.
you have to feed the crazy. You have to feed
Yeah,
the crazy
yeah,
inside of you.
yeah, 100%. You have to do it a little bit and keep that cycle going. But Tabarak, honestly, man, I know this is only the start. What you've done is, it's not just unfathomable for what you've done for yourself, but for people as well. This number is not justifying the level of impact you've created. Yet directly you're educating 7,000 children, which kudos to you, man. But I can't even imagine how many people you must have inspired, including me, along the way. and how that energy will be channeled by them to do something who further inspires other people. So this energy is contagious and it's never ending, and it's like a snowball effect. It'll keep on going and going and going, and we'll never know the true impact of it, but that's the beauty of it. You can't quantify it, right? So
Yeah.
kudos to you, man. Thank you so much for being here and sharing this space with us and giving us your time. We really appreciate you, and we can't see what you've planned for the future.
Thank you, man, and I'm excited for your run across Pakistan as well. So,
Thank you. I'll need your help.
I'm really looking forward to it, bro.
Thank you so much, bro. Really appreciate it. And I just want to acknowledge everybody for being here and sticking with us and being a part of this exchange. Thank you. We truly appreciate you. And we'll see you in the next one.